Welcome back. And for the people who haven't seen the first part of this segment doing with H.Muir on Ask the Expert, he started with a topic a couple of days ago. And this is the second part of this topic. For the ones who have been seeing it, we're going to have a link below so you can check the first part. I would advise you to check for the first one so the second one makes more sense. And H, welcome back. And the sharing is yours. I hope I don't mess it up. You're still the co-host. Yes, you are. All yours.
Okay. Thanks, Susan. Great to be back. Welcome to part 2 of how to act influential. If you'll remember, when we talk about act influential, it's the 3 keys to really being influential as the messenger. And that is establishing attraction. And we talked about that in session 1. Today, we're going to talk about how to establish credibility and also tit for tat or reciprocity. And we'll talk about why those are important to be influential and how you do that. So when you establish credibility, there's 3 C's to really doing that. The first one is all about competence. And it's when you engage with people, the first questions we said in part 1 that people ask is, can I trust you? The second question that people ask when you engage them is, do I respect this person? And essentially that respect comes through and is, are they credible? And credibility comes from these 3 things. The first is this person competent? What does competent mean? Do they have the skills and the knowledge to back up what they're saying? So how do you establish competence without bringing forth your resume? It's actually a difficult thing to do. One is certainly talking about your experiences and talking about it in concrete terms. What does that mean? Not just talking about what you do, but talking about how you've done it. And the other thing that establishes your competence is talking about how you've done it in the past. So not saying hypothetically what you might do or how you potentially do it, but giving a concrete example. Here is how I've done this in the past. Here is how I've handled a case like this. Here is how I've sold a house like this. Here is how I have managed a project like this. So when you talk about competence and establishing your credibility, make sure that you're concrete and talk about how you've done it and actually offer examples. The other thing that people judge you on in terms of credibility is your confidence. So your confidence should be all about, that comes out that says, that shows that you believe that you can do whatever it is that you and the person you're engaged with or the team you're engaged with, that you show that belief in yourself. And a lot of times that, how we judge that is less on the words and as much on the facial expressions, the body language, and our voice especially. And so the confidence comes from having asserting your voice. So having a voice, showing that you're passionate about it, because we associate passion with confidence. So using your voice to show passion, using your facial expressions to show passion, show that you care about the subject that you all are talking about. That exudes confidence to your audience. I think the other thing that exudes confidence is the words you choose. And so in talking, so not having words that are what I call caveat words. So I kinda know how to sell houses like this. Using demonstrative statements that say, yes, I know how to sell a house like this. I know how to lead a project like this. Using those demonstrative language really exudes confidence. And the last thing, the other thing about the voice too is, we've all been with someone who at the end of the sentence, their voice trails off, or there's a lilt in their voice that it almost is a question. I know how to lead this project. Not so finishing strongly when you use your voice at the end and say, I know how to lead this project. I know how to lead a project like this. I know how to sell a house like this. I've done this before. Keeping this, so watch that at the end, especially if we're more introverted and we're less assertive by nature, we can trail off in a sentence, and that will send a signal to the audience, or our audience will perceive that we're not as confident as we are. The last thing.
Caveat, when you said when you says I done it, I would say as a caveat is like move your head positive. Make sure you're not moving your head side to side. It's like, yes, I done it. Show your hands, show confidence, move your head positive on the attitude, and that's how you put all together. So most people says across the arm like, yeah, I done it, and they show fear. So thank you for bringing it on, because it's another question that I have a lot, like how I show confidence. And reason that we call you and ask the expert, because we have worked before together. We were really good putting the both craft that we have in that. But I want to put that caveat out there, like make sure that your body, words, and head are consistent when you're saying that.
Right. Susan's exactly right. I like to say it's your words and music, right? The words are what comes out of your mouth. Your music is your facial expression and body language, and those need to be matched. And it's one of the things that we train in detail is giving people feedback specifically about how they come across with their body language. The last C that builds credibility is really character. And what do we mean by character? Character is essentially the integrity, right? You do what you say you're going to do when you say you're going to do it. So how do you establish that character, especially if it's a first time in a relationship? One of the things that I do is I always, I make whatever it is that I sign up for visible. Because about 40 to 50% of us internalize things visually. So for me to ensure that I have integrity, that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do, I make it visual. In a meeting, even if it's a one-on-one meeting, if I've got a whiteboard, I'll write up what we all agree to do by when on that whiteboard. If a whiteboard's not available or a flip chart's not available and I'm working with someone, I definitely send an email with those things following up as soon as I can. Again, because in the absence of having a relationship with that person where they know my character, I want to put it out there that this is, I'm putting it out there to say, hey, this is what I'm committing to do, and I will live up to my commitment. So that's the thing, really, in terms of credibility. Again, it's competence. You know, do we have the skills and knowledge to do it? Confidence, do we demonstrate that we have belief that we can do it? And character, do we ultimately live up to what we commit to? So those are the 3 C's of credibility. The last act of being influential, and it's actually the most powerful way to be influential, is reciprocity, or tit for tat. That means you do something for someone and then you ask them to do for you. I think the thing that makes this difficult is, you know, and I ask this in training, which takes greater confidence or strength, asking for help or giving help? Asking for help takes a lot of confidence. And consequently, if you're not asking for it, then you're not taking advantage of reciprocity, which is the most powerful way to influence. We do things for people all the time. It's just, are we conscious of what we've done for them? Are we conscious about how they see us? And so one of the things a couple of things to do when you're in a discussion, you're working with other people, you're selling to other people, you're counseling other people. One of the things to think about is, what can you contribute to this so that you establish that you've put skin in the game and that you're giving them something so that they then will be beholden to you, or that you can take advantage of reciprocity. The other thing that people don't realize is when you concede something, if you give the other person something, then that is actually giving them a deposit in the emotional bank account, which we talked about in the first session. But it also it's giving them something that you can later leverage by taking advantage of it. So reciprocity isn't always just doing for others. Sometimes it's conceding something that other people perceive that is important to you and may not be. So by conceding something, you have essentially done the tit, and you just need to ask for the tat. So those in closing, just to highlight again, the 3 things that we find make you influential as the messenger. One is attraction, right? It's really about establishing warmth and having people perceive that they can trust you. The second is credibility. It's really other people understanding that they can respect you, and they respect you because you're competent, you're confident, and you have high character. And the last and the most important, but I think the most important because it is the most powerful way to influence, and that's according to the Harvard Business Review, but I also think it's the most underutilized way to influence, is tit for tat, reciprocity. So the challenge there is recognizing that when you've done for other people, and when and having the confidence to ask them to do for you. That's the end of Ask the Expert. Susan, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you very much, H. And I'm sure this is the first of a few more long conversations we're going to have. People is going to go ballistic, because that is the feedback that we always have when we work together. And it's always a pleasure to have you. H.Muir, my business partner in crime, it's a pleasure to have you. And I see you soon. Bye.
See you. Thank you. Ta-da.